If you're over 25 and you're still not dating the women you'd like and you feel like you deserve better women, I have some bad news for you guys. If you're not dating the women that you want, let's say you're walking down the street, maybe you're on Hinge, wherever you see these beautiful women that in your mind is what you deserve. The world rewards individuals for the effort that they put in. A very wise guy once said, the world doesn't let effort go unrewarded. And that is huge. That is massive, because whether it's starting a business and putting in your work for the business or your fitness, putting in the work goes hand in hand with sacrifice. And so if you're not dating the women you want, it's for two reasons. Number one, you're not putting in the work to understand the psychology behind male and female behaviors. You're not putting in the work to develop the attraction. Most importantly, you're not putting in the work to develop the proper communication to speak to these females and be able to build attraction and seduce them, okay? And so if you're not putting in that work, then you won't get rewarded with better looking women, with better quality women, right? Women that care for you, women that truly are feminine, women that don't have bad intentions. And so the world will not let hard efforts go unrewarded. That being said, there's also a level of sacrifice that has to be made for you to achieve what you want to achieve. What is that sacrifice? So let's look at other areas outside of dating and relationships. Other areas outside of dating and relationships. If you are into fitness and you're trying to improve your fitness, what is the sacrifice there to get the ideal body that you wish you had? The sacrifice there is the dieting, is the working out, waking up early so you could get a workout before you hit your 9 to 5. Going to sleep later so you could get that workout in. Saying no to dinners so you could go ahead and get in shape from your friends. Not going drinking, so on and so forth. So there's a sacrifice involved with everything you want to get good at, including women, right? Look at business. What is the sacrifice of business? Well, the sacrifice of having a successful business, that might mean getting an MBA, right? Sacrificing 2 years of your prime. If you're getting an MBA, maybe in your late 20s, early 30s, then that sacrifice itself could be rewarding in the long run. Maybe you get into a top 7 MBA school and then you become a top consultant, so on and so forth. Vice versa, if you don't make that type of sacrifice, maybe your sacrifice was making no money for a year, making no money for 2 years, 3 years. You have to be willing to make a sacrifice. So now let's shift our focus into the sacrifice you have to make with women. I was blessed, and I'll start by giving you a story about myself. I was blessed with a supportive family, and I had a lot of uncles, right? And my dad and my grandfather at that time, they would always kind of push me to go talk to girls, right? I grew up in a Hispanic household. If you guys are Hispanic, they basically push you to go talk to girls from a very young age. If you're 10, they're like, go talk to that girl. Like, I think she likes you. I was kind of blessed from that perspective because of culture allowed me to basically get comfortable with women early on in my life. A lot of you guys don't have that. A lot of you guys don't have that. I like to give the analogy is that's the equivalent of getting $1 million loan in business. And a lot of you guys don't have that. So what is the sacrifice you have to make to get good with women? A lot of you guys watching this might know Brandon and I personally. Maybe you guys took a camp, took a course. A lot of you guys maybe have been following our channel for some months now. But you guys know that we are the real deal. You guys know that we do pull effortlessly. As good as we are, that didn't even come natural to me. There was some things I'm good at naturally, like being witty and naturally flirty, because I've been doing since I was 10, basically. But being able to maintain healthy relationships and actually have women head over heels for you is a little different, right? You actually have to study that. How do I become a better partner for her? How do I listen to her better? How do I make her feel more comfortable? How do I communicate what bothers me in a non-confrontational way? So on and so forth. A lot of things that you actually have to stop and think about. And for me, studying and analyzing that type of psychology has been since I was about 17, 18 years old. So 12 years later now, right? 10, 12 years later, that's how much I've sacrificed every single year to learn more about women. Decades of experience, right? Brandon's done the same. Decades of experience just trying to analyze women, trying to see what works, not just in person, fundamentals of relationships, right? The psychology behind that, but also on dating apps, right? Also seeing what text is gonna work, what's gonna get her hooked on Hinge, what kind of pictures work on Hinge. All these things that you guys research when you have some free time, we dedicate our lives 24/7 to that. That is a sacrifice we make, but we align that sacrifice with something we love. There's two things that get me really happy. One, when I meet a new girl and things pop off and it could turn into a fling or something meaningful. Just meeting new chicks, and when they're awesome, that's fucking amazing. I love that feeling. The only feeling that beats that is seeing you guys watching this and my students in the program do exactly that. Because like the old saying says, you could tell how good a coach is by the performance of his students. That's truly rewarding, okay? So if you guys are over 25 years old and don't have it together, you have very few options. You could dedicate the next 10 years of your life to get to the level that Brandon and I are at. The caveat there is that you have someone guiding you through the hardships. It's very easy to give up when you're alone. That's why if you guys are into business and finance, I used to have a finance background. A lot of startups, they don't get funding unless they have a co-founder. And it's exactly for that reason, okay? It's always good to have two people supporting each other. You have to have the right guidance. You have to have the right support. I know a lot of you guys watching this don't even have wingmen to go out. It's really, really tough to get as good as Brandon and I are by yourself, because you don't have that support system with your buddies, with your wingmen. You don't really know what you're doing. There's so much shit information out in the internet, so much confusing stuff from guys that don't really know what they're doing. I won't name any names, but there's a lot. Trial and error is the most expensive payment you can make. And I'm telling you this from experience. In fitness, in business, in your career, in women, trial and error is gonna be the most expensive. Why? Because you have to try it, and trials require time. Trials require not time just to carry out that trial, right, yourself, but also to self-reflect on that trial and to plan that trial, right? It's a 3-part process. And again, so Brandon and I did that, right? We've been doing that for the past decade. We're putting blood, sweat, and tears into this. And if you guys want to get there, that's what you have to do. But outside of that, if you guys want to get really good with women and you're over 25, there's a few things you have to knock off the checklist before you even begin focusing on women. As much as I hate saying this, but there's a lot of parts of the checklist that you guys have to meet. The first and foremost is you guys have to have an education, or you guys have to have a stable, well-paying job. I'm not saying be a millionaire, but I'm saying good enough so you could start a family. Realistically, anything over 50,000 at age 25 is perfect, because if you dedicate yourself to that craft, whatever your occupation is, in 5 to 10 years, you'll be well over 100,000, okay? If you play your cards right and you put in the hard work. You wanna be at an entry level making over 50,000. That's more than enough for any woman to understand that you're good enough. Now, I have friends that don't even make that much money and they're killing it with women that are very supportive, because of course they're my friends and they've learned as well of communication and female and male psychology. And so they get good even with making less money than them. For you personally, I would like to see you guys achieve that first, have an education, have a stable occupation, white collar, blue collar, I don't care. You could always progress as long as there's an opportunity to advance. The second thing that I want you guys to do is to be healthy, right? You can't live life if you're not healthy. And I mean this from all perspectives. If you're fat, dedicate 1 year into just losing fat before you focus on women. And again, the reason I say that is for terms of health. Everything I'm telling you is for your own wellness, not to attract more women. Because you can attract women just as you are, poor, fat, and ugly. You really can, if you truly know how to flirt and communicate well. For your wellness, for the sake of your own mental health, for the sake of your physical body, right? For the sake of your longevity, that's what I want you to do. Okay, focus on those two things. Once you achieve those two things, and I'm not talking being a bodybuilder, like I said, I'm not expecting you to make hundreds and hundreds of thousands at age 25. The closer you are to 35, the more ahead of that level you should be. I'm not telling you to be a bodybuilder like Chris Bumstead either, right? I'm not a bodybuilder myself, right? I'm about 30 pounds overweight. I want you to be, 15 to 25% fat. I want you to be closer to the 15% fat range. Important. That's really, really important, because without health and without being able to sustain yourself, your mind is not going to be able to focus on relationships. And in order to carry out a successful relationship, you need focus. So those are the first two things I want you to do. If you're still watching, now we're getting into the juicy part. Once you complete those two things, that's when you really get to focus on the women, okay? What I want you to do is to, before you even think about going out, is to take a moment and self-reflect on what your strengths are. Your strength might be that you're just really smart, or your strength might be that you're a really fast reader. Whatever your strengths are, I want to know those. Share them in the comments, by the way, guys, because this is going to be important. Once you know what your strengths are, I want you to join a community. It doesn't have to be ours. I don't care if it's ours. Join a community, because like I said, you need a support system to get good, right? You need someone you could go out with reliably, someone that has the same vision in your mind, someone you can relate to and attack that problem together. Very important. So it doesn't have to be there's a ton of communities, there's a ton of dating coaches, you can join whichever one, but you have to join a community so you could get a partner, okay? You get a wingman, you start working on it. Once you do that and you know your strengths, your wingman preferably has to fill in for your weaknesses. You know what your strengths are, so when you look for a wingman, ask what his strengths are. Make sure they're complementary. My best wingman, the best ones, like the ones that we have the best girls all the time, because my strength is flirting. I'm really good at that. Their strengths are comfort. Their strengths they make girls feel really comfortable, kind of like at home, and I make them feel like really fun, high energy, like they just like having fun with me. And so that balances out really well, right? And I learn from their comfort, and I always learn new things. I'm always going to be a student of psychology, and then they learn about me. And so that's why I want you to know your strengths, because your wingman has to be complementary to that. You also need to know your weaknesses. The reason you got to know your weaknesses is actually not the same reason because you got to know your strengths, but because while you're out talking to women, what happens a lot of the times, you guys are unaware of what your weaknesses are, and you start going down a deep rabbit hole of I'm not good enough, I'm not confident enough, the girls will never like me, or you go the other route where you just become a complete incel. Fuck these girls, fuck these bitches, so on and so forth. But in reality, because you didn't take the time to understand your weaknesses, you don't know why you're not progressing while you're out in the field talking to women on Hinge, on Bumble. I'll give you an example. If you are very quiet and you go out and girls can't hear you at the bar, and you're just a quiet individual, right? You're soft-spoken. You're not going to get anyone's attention because they can't hear you. You're not used to practicing with your energy up here. You're not used to having that kind of energy. You're simply not. And so if you understand that weakness, you're going to avoid all those mental hurdles of thinking you're not good enough. You already know that's the problem because that's your weakness. You avoid that dark hole that you go into in your mind, right? That dark voice, that darkness that tells you you're not good enough because you know your weaknesses. Likewise, you prevent yourself from becoming an incel and calling all girls bitches, this and that, because now you're aware. You're like, oh, well, it makes sense that she didn't even look at me. I'm not even loud. So that's why you need to know your weaknesses. Once you figure those things out, right? 3 things: join a community, figure out your strengths, figure out your weaknesses. Once you do those 3 things, you're ready to go. You're ready to attack it and hammer it out. The next thing you need to set up is frequency. How often will you practice your new skills with women? How often are you gonna expose yourself with women? Very simple. It should be between 2 to 5 times a week. When I was about almost 10 years ago, I was going out 4 or 5 times a week. When I was a senior in college, guys, for my last semester, I had about 4 classes left. For that semester, I set up all my classes on Wednesday. Just Wednesday. You know what I was doing outside of Wednesdays? I was going out on dates. I had a girlfriend. I had a friend with benefits at the time. I was meeting with her. I was honing in on my skill because I knew I wanted to do this long term. And every day that wasn't Tuesday night, I would be out. I knew I wanted to do this since I was a sophomore, junior in college. And so I set up my schedule so I could own in on that practice. Doing all this, it's exponential, guys, because I met people who were older than me that had been doing this previously, and they helped me. Okay, so I got lucky from that. I got lucky from all perspectives, which is why it's perfect that I am doing this now, right? Ever since I was 10, my uncles were pushing me to go talk to girls. First girlfriend at 14, right? That youthful experience. And at the same time, once I was in college from 18 to 20, I started going out 5 times a week. And so I've been doing exactly that up until now, right? That's a decade of doing that. Think about that. A decade going out 5 times a week for a year straight. That's a lot of times going out. Okay, that's a lot of experience. You accumulate that experience with coaching other guys, right? I coach a lot of you who watch this, and then it gets even more exponential. So I'm just miles and miles and miles ahead of many guys. That's what it takes, guys. If you guys see me and Brandon, it's very easy when you guys see us in person, and I hope you guys get the chance to see Brandon and I in person. You guys look at us, right? Brandon is 6'3", I'm 6'2". You guys look at us and you're like, oh, those guys get the girls because they're good looking, like this and that, or whatever. And Brandon has always been tall. Brandon has always been that height, but he has never gone women like he does now. We make it look so easy and natural because we've been focused on our craft for so long. And so if you guys want to do that, you're going to have to first fix your health, right? If you're fat, if you're overweight, or if you're too skinny, you want to put on some muscle so you could have more life, right? So you could have more longevity, and so you could, dedicate a little bit of health. You're probably going to lose a little bit of health if you're going out 5 times a week, if you're going out on 5 dates every week. So I want you to attack that, attack your finances, make sure you're stable enough, just stable enough. I'm not saying you have to be rich, 50K or over. And if you're more towards your 30s, mid 30s, make sure it's a little bit higher than that. And then after that, find your community, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, weaknesses and attack with frequency. Go out often. That's what it's gonna take. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. We'll be posting more videos. And if you haven't, join our community. If you're looking for one, you just stumbled upon this, join the community. Link is in the description. And if you're actually looking for coaching from guys who actually know what they're doing, link is also in the description, guys. We'll see you later.